So now it's embarrassing story time. And unfortunately, before we get into the embarrassing story, we need to get into why this actually happened. Now, Canon has brought out a lot of R-series cameras in the last few years, and all these R-series cameras have amazing capabilities. You got the R5, you got the R6, R6 Mark II, and especially in the video realm. And in the video realm, when you have amazing capabilities, the first thing you really want to do as an experienced videographer usually is exported via an external monitor. And what this will give you is what we call ProRes. And ProRes is an industry standard for broadcast when it comes to formats and stuff like that. So you want to export that video up to a monitor and get that monitor because it makes everything go faster, your computer goes faster, and it helps your workflow. It makes you a faster videographer, photographer, whatever you're doing. And you can do what you need to do in a timely fashion. This will save your life, save time, and time is money. So when you're exporting to HDMI, you can do so many things, including extend the life of your camera when it comes to video. You can film as long as you want to, as long as you have the right card and you have the right battery life. Now, with all that being said, Canon's external HDMI system is one of the most complicated, complex HDMI systems. First off, don't even get me started with the mini HDMI cord that falls out every 5 seconds, but when you're actually porting your signal up to an HDMI monitor, one of the worst things is to have your signal get lost. A cord gets snipped or a cord falls out of your camera or anything can happen. But even then, the technology in the camera doesn't really respond well to the Atomos Ninja because you have to understand what mode you're in when it comes to external HDMI porting, whether you're in LCD mode or LCD plus monitor mode. And for those of you who know the R6 and the R5, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because the first thing it's going to tell you once you go to LCD mode is that, hey, you may or may not be able to use internal recording, or you may not be able to record to an SD card. And a lot of times this is a big issue because you might want to back up. And with technology being so flimsy, don't get me started on the hot shoe mount itself, but with technology being so flimsy, last thing you want to hear is your ability to back up some footage not being there. So I was recording one day. Here's the embarrassing story. I was recording one day, long form footage. Why? Because when you're recording externally, you can shoot at long formats with the ProRes, and this makes your computer work faster. You can get everything done and your computer's not about to explode on you, right? So I said show for about 2 hours and then everything will be great. All right, so we're recording this show for about 2 hours. Now the first half, about 30 minutes, it was good. Everything was rolling good from what I could see. I was taking pictures, so my attention wasn't completely on the camera. That's all, in all honesty, guys. And I do this sometimes when I'm trying to really impress or trying to really do an event and have everything to myself. But this is another lesson to me, is that don't ever do everything. And a lot of people are telling me this. Don't spoil people and don't do everything by yourself, because you could really suffer. And that's what I'm suffering about right now. Long story short, I was filming with the R6 Mark II, and the R6 Mark II was porting it, it was externally recording, ProRes, 4K, and I had it recording in the LCD mode for HDMI, and I forgot I had it recording in LCD mode for HDMI. So that one bad thing. In the beginning, it was okay, but I can actually see the box, and I didn't necessarily notice, but in hindsight, when I saw the footage later, I could actually see the box tracking the eye, and I'm like, dang, I didn't even know this. Now you can hit the info button and all this other stuff, but I didn't even know it was an unclean HDMI feed for the first 30 minutes. And then the next 30 minutes to an hour, right before that 30 minutes to an hour hit, the camera actually just went to sleep on me. The camera went to sleep on me, and I'm sitting here like, why is the camera asleep? So I'm franticing while the event is going and I'm missing footage, trying to figure out why the camera went to sleep. And I'm hitting info buttons and all this other stuff and trying to figure it out. I have all of my attributes for sleeping and the camera auto powering off and all this stuff disabled. And I thought I fixed this issue before, but apparently I didn't. So when I went back into the menu system, I found out that, hey, you still have to go into monitor plus LCD screen mode to keep the camera attributes from being seen by the external monitor. That means your focus brackets, your LCD screen that shows you all the stuff for the operator only, like the sometimes the shutter speed, ISO, aperture, all this unclean HDMI stuff. We don't want that. But you was actually able to see it in my final video, and I was so upset. But even more than me being upset, my client was upset. So much so that they didn't even want to use the footage. Even though the footage looked great for what it was looking like, you could still see the overlay of the focus brackets and all this other stuff because it was an unclean HDMI feed. And me not knowing this and me being in such a frantic motion or a frantic state at that 30-minute mark when the camera went to sleep on me, I didn't think about the screen being what the screen was. I was just so happy that the screen was still recording, not knowing that the screen was actually an unclean HDMI feed. And this is a really big problem because I wasn't prepared. But more than that, my client didn't even like the video so much that they didn't even use the footage. And these are some of the things that pros try to stress to the people who are starting video and doing all this other stuff, that you really have to understand these things. And when the camera companies come out with new technology, you really got to test it end to end to end and not put yourself under too much stress where you can't learn the next greatest thing about your camera. But that doesn't mean that it's not the most confusing HDMI system you have ever experienced on a camera system. I'm Devin with CFX Studios. That was the embarrassing story. Does anybody else have a story like that? Let me know in the comments below and stay tuned for the next video.